Hello viewers, welcome to my channel Science to Technology. In today's show, Rocket Monday, we're gonna talk about is NASA lost? So let's dive right into it. Now first we have to understand what exactly is the issue here. Issue is money and time. They are what we classify as non-replenishable, meaning once you waste it, it's gone, the end, done. Army has the luxury of saying that they can have infinite money, but everybody other than that has serious limitation with money and time. And government has a limitation. Now many times people don't get it. It's like why government is cancelling something, because you are not signing the bill, government is signing the bill, and government has to balance everything out, because while they can give GG amounts of money to army and people will not object too much to it, they still have to take care of infrastructure, they still have to take care of education, they still have to take care of medicines. So in all those sort of scenarios, they are the one who's signing all the bills, so they may be like, you know what, really not a good investment. And while public is a bit more forgiving, even they have a limit, meaning if you have fail after fail after fail after fail after fail, even they will stop supporting you. Mind you, this happened with Apollo also. So this is one of those things. Now if you are doing well, if you are doing everything right and things are going well, you will be in a scenario where you will be national pride. For example, the pride of Apollo missions. Think of it this way, like they achieved something so far out, like people go, oh, USSR actually won because they did first this, that's like, no, this was a very specific win, simply because I will like low earth orbit is here, like this is earth, this is low earth orbit, that's moon. Moon is measured in second, like it will, light takes more than a second to reach to the moon. That's how far US went. That's why it's such a big deal, and that's the fact that Soviet Union could not even get their rocket to actually go that far, let alone people and mission and all that jazz. Just the fact that America did that, and let that sink in. So far no other country has ever come close to achieving this. China is trying that, and at best case scenario they're gonna achieve that by next 5 to 6 years. So let that sink in. They achieved so far out, like it's 50-60 years in the making for anybody else to catch it up. And if things don't go too stupidly bad, NASA may be the second one. Is like, yeah, we conquered it again. And this sort of amazing achievements are not something take lightly. This had amazing effects on USA. However, if you have poor performance, you will have literal budget cuts. For example, this is the till 2017 kind of graph, and NASA's share, as in, like, think of it this way, US government has $100, how much they are giving you. So at peak time, basically peak of Cold War, and money was like, money is no object, go YOLO on it, they reached as high as 4.5% around 1969 during Apollo project, and then people got bored of it. And yes, this part people don't realize, that's why I would urge you to watch movie Apollo 13, and that TV clippings that they recreate, like how people are reacting to Apollo mission, that was real. Like people lost interest after that, and once they realized Soviet Union was nowhere near having the might that Saturn V had, they're like, yeah, this is really overkill. They overkilled it very well. They overkilled so much they ended up killing themselves. So then this happened, and then the price started to go down very around 1%, and then the Challenger disaster happened, and then it started to go downhill after that. Right now they are averaging around 0.5 to 0.6% of US budget. So if US government has $100, they get 0.6 of that. So that's the issue. You have to perform, because if you don't, your budget will go to zero. Now let's understand their height, like how many amazing achievements they did. Apollo project was surprisingly condensed, like people have no idea. Now be mindful, it was carried over with some other army agency, then NASA was created. So 1961 to 1972, that's 11 years. Now let that sink in. If I tell you that NASA could do something in 11 years, would you even believe it? At this point in time, would you even believe that NASA did everything from scratch? They had no idea, nothing, zero. They don't even exist, and they will go from that not even existing to, like, I got this, fam, I got this. Like, is that even digestible? Now you may think they may have boatloads of money. Yes and no. They had around 156, inflation converted it to today's money, so 156 billion dollar. Now that sounds a lot of money. Again, not for army is like, bro, I consume this much in month. But in terms of NASA, that's not that much. That is like around 8 years of NASA funding. So if NASA was only doing this, they could still do this basically in 8 years. So that's not too outrageous amount of money. Like, again, it was expensive, but not too outrageous. And they did everything under 10 years. That's the most amazing part. Like right now, we can't even launch a satellite, let alone an advanced telescope, let alone crew missions. But they did everything in 10 years. To give you a context, like Saturn V, this rocket is granddaddy rocket. At this point in time, nothing even come close to this. And to give you a context of that, the biggest rocket that supposed to come close to this, basically SpaceX Starship, it's still at least 3-4 years from now. So mind-bogglingly advanced rocket. They built spacesuit also. Be mindful, NASA is running out of spacesuit because all the extravehicular ability suits that was built for basically ISS, they are now reaching their expiry date, meaning they are in serious need of, well, redesign the Mark II. There is no Mark II. And in terms of Artemis mission, where like for next generation spacesuit, yeah, that's also behind schedule. They did all that, basically build Saturn V, build spacesuit, build a lunar module, meaning the things that's gonna actually land and launch from moon. They built all that. Command and service module, basically this puppy, and lunar rover also, plus all the technology. Be mindful, this when this puppy was built, there was no such thing as technology, there was no such thing as RAM, there was no such thing as memory. For example, if you look at the memory module on those things, you will be surprised, it looks like it's hands-on, because that's how it was done. It was built like a cloth with a magnetic beads. Literally, I'm not joking. Like when I first time I saw it, when I realized like, what exactly it was, I'm like, damn. So they built technology for that, like they built integrated circuit for that. To give you an idea how old this is, there was no solar panel. That's why like you will never see solar panel in this puppy, simply because they did not have that technology developed. Once they actually launched there, they're like, dude, the only option is use hydrogen and oxygen. Like, and that was the mission that went boom into basically Apollo 13. And this is how many places they landed on Apollo 11, 12, 13 went boom. Be mindful, no loss of life happened. They just turned around the moon and then, like, landed. Apollo 14, Apollo 15, Apollo 16, Apollo 17. 17 was the last. So this was the height of basically NASA's maximum speed of work, maximum speed of achievement, maximum efficiency, meaning not a single dollar wasted, and they were going GG. Like, be mindful, the things that were built for this puppy is still in use. So it was not a, like, it's mind-boggling how far a country can go if they are really driven with that. That's why NASA has such a high prestige among people. Like, and you might be like, okay, that's a boatload of money they burnt there. No, the amount of technology they got from that early on. I'm like, if you think about it, like, why the heck Silicon Valley happened in USA, not anywhere else? That's why. Like, the amount of kids who got involved because of this into science, that's like a multiplication. Oh, we went like hundreds of billion. Science and technology, that development that happened is like, yeah, 500 billion, take it and go. Oh, whole of freaking IT technology, take it and go. So that is mind-bogglingly good. As not only you got national pride, not only you got boatload of return in science and technology, you also achieved something. Let that sink in. Half of the people can't even believe this ever happened. That's how mind-bogglingly awesome this was. This is NASA's height. And then they started to fall. I mean, really fall. They started to build what we call a space shuttle from 1972 to 2011. Now this failed on all deliverables. This was the very bad realization that NASA can mess up, and it can mess up badly. For example, any projects generally will have multiple targets, and you should be aiming for 80% deliverables, meaning this puppy was like, we're gonna launch it very quickly. They failed on that. Their target was like, 2 launches per month. They barely managed to do 2 launches per year. Their target is gonna be cheap. It costed literally more or same as $196 billion, more or less the same as Apollo, even higher than Apollo, practically speaking. And it was overpriced, slow, and it was lethal. That's the worst thing of this, because it actually took life away. Let that sink in. Apollo 13 had an issue. We know, like, it was a boom event. That did happen. It went boom, but everything survived. That's what we call a resilient system, meaning you had a failure, you still go around the moon, you land, everything is safe. Again, not the ideal outcome, but at least you survived. In space shuttle, boostering, and the first disaster was the worst disaster, simply because it should not have happened, because there were 3 basically what we call mission planners, where like all 3 has to agree in order to launch the system, and one person got the phone call. It's like basically you see a lot of workstations. Each workstation has person dedicated to one thing. The person dedicated to boosters, actually, for another guys, boosters are not in safe environment. They're not supposed to be this cold. Their seals will not work properly. That phone call was made. Shuttle should have been cancelled, but again, due to political system and bad design, they launched it and it went boom. So first shuttle should never have had accident like that. Second one is like far less preventable. First one should have been prevented, meaning, think of it this way, like, they on paper it should have been prevented, because there was a person whose sole job is like, I'm only gonna focus on this booster. There was a person who was like, I'm only gonna focus on tank, I'm only gonna focus on crew health. I'm gonna, like, that's the whole point of NASA. They did that. Awesome. The person detected is like, dude, my training says that if booster is like, minus 20 degrees Celsius for so long, call it off. It's not safe. He did that. That phone call was made, and then they launched it. So be mindful, it failed on every single delivery. Not only it costed more than Apollo project, it also had like basically lethality factor to it, and not to mention it could not even carry too much payload to it. For example, this is a very good example of that. This puppy was 24 tons to low Earth orbit. And if you compare that to Saturn V, that is around 118 ton. To be fair, what Starship is actually turning out to be, Starship, when they planned, the actual planning was around 150 ton. Right now they have toned it down to 100 ton. Now if they actually do not tone it down any further, that still means Saturn V is still the granddaddy. So let that sink in. That's how far ahead they were. Every Tom, Dick and Harry was analyzing the system. Space shuttle was a bad design. Now be mindful, many engineers that early on, meaning 1972, are like, dude, this is really not a good design, like really not good design. Because be mindful, before this we had emergency escape system. In this we did not have emergency escape system. So this is one of those scenarios where people realize NASA is fallible, meaning they could design a bad thing and they'll keep pushing it. And that's why it had to be retired. And let that sink in. This was such a bad system where when they retired it, they had no replacement because it was costing so much money. If it was cheap, later it's turned out to be lethal, but it was cheap. They could divert money into making something else, but it was burning so much money, they could not do anything else. And that's the sad part of it. Like, it costed a lot. And to give you a context, like, the amount of money burnt was so huge that NASA tried again and again and again trying to recover their losses. For example, they created what we call Constellation project. Idea was that we will copy paste every development that has been done with basically space shuttle, and we'll try to use it like this puppy, like actual launch system. This was Ares 1. Ares 1 was, the idea was that it's gonna be basically like Falcon 9. It's gonna carry upwards of 25 tons, and it's gonna just have a modified solid booster. They built it like this is the actual built launch system. It had boilerplate, everything. What they developed, basically Orion capsule, built, developed, launched, tested, as in space launch tested, has been done. And then Obama comes along, it's like, looks at the project and looks at the bill of the project. It's like, you are way too behind schedule and way too expensive, and you are not actually delivering anything new. I'm like, I can keep funding you, but like, country is not getting anything new. So they scrapped the project. So project had like upper baby brother, like this is a baby brother, and there was a even bigger brother that's supposed to be Ares 5. Now if you'll think at, like, Ares 5 looks way too close to SLS because inherently that's what SLS is. So they try to now reuse this system, and this puppy is way too behind schedule. Like, everybody knows at this point in time, space launch system is not a space launch system, is Senate launch system, because senators wanted to continue that solid booster thing. Now that part, some people get confused, like, why country wants to use solid booster? It's a bad idea, bad design. Why the heck you want to do this? Well, because if you are a country and you have ICBMs, you never want to test them, because if you actually test an ICBM, every Tom, Dick and Harry will know what is your actual capability. You never want to reveal that. So they want to be like, hey, can you use solid boosters? We're gonna learn all the data, launch data about it, how the grain burns, like what is the powder mix, what is the G-force that it creates, everything, without having an issue. Because it's like, if you have, let's say India has a lot of ICBMs like Agni 4, Agni 5 and all that jazz, we'll test Agni 4, we'll never test Agni 5. Like, again, if we have to do that, sometimes you do want to show it off. Sometimes you are like, hey, look at me, I can like come to your house and go boom on you. So be very mindful to, if you want to mess with us, sometimes you want that, but other times you do not want to do that. But Obama canceled the Constellation project. Oh, by the way, to give you a context how much money that wasted in this thing, it is same money that NASA gave to SpaceX to develop whole project, meaning SpaceX whole development from commercial resupply missions to commercial Crew program. All of them costed the same amount of money that Constellation burnt through. And then we have SLS, which was just like Ares 5 redesigned to SLS Block 1, SLS Block 1B, SLS Block 2, and blah blah blah, whatever have you. So this is the worst time. Basically from 1972 they went downhill, and because they did not realize very early on that space shuttle was a bad design, they did not try to have any contingency. They literally waited till the last moment for this, like, yeah, okay, it has to be cancelled, because the second accident proved that. It's like, first was like a fluke, so people were very confident, oh no, this will never happen again. But second was like, yeah, no, this system is inherently flawed, it has way too many failed points, and oops events always happen. That's one of those things that when Saturn V was built, everybody knew, like, boom events will happen. It's not when, it will happen. How the heck you gonna manage that? So that's why Saturn V does not have any loss of life, unless you count Crew 1 issue, which happened on the ground, not on the rocket. That's why Saturn V has a clean record. So this is the downfall. Like, they burnt way too much money, lost a lot of astronauts' life, and it was all, basically avoidable, because many people flat out realize on the history itself is like, dude, in 1972 it's like, this is a bad design, why you are developing this? Then we come to the current situation. Now current situation, they are really bad, like really bad, as in like so much bad that anybody who comes after Joe Biden may simply start to cut projects. That's how bad it is. To give you an idea what's actually going wrong, is like schedule and budgets are becoming a joke at this point in time, and that's not acceptable, because that simply means you A, don't have authority, or B, don't have competence. Both are bad. And you may be like, okay, NASA never knew how to deal with private contractor. That's how Apollo was done. Apollo literally had Boeing as a primary contractor to build the computational ring. That black ring that you see around the rocket, that is like that housed all the computers. So that's how it was done. Like they contracted MIT, they contracted companies. Like that's how it was done. Like it's a normal thing. NASA knows how to do that, but so far they have failed horridly. Only knight in shining armor is SpaceX, because while SpaceX is behind schedule, like 2 years I think total behind schedule, but they delivered. Like that's the amazing part. They delivered and they did not went over budget. So this had saved NASA's. Like think of it this way: like NASA went from going to the moon to not having anything that can even carry any person to ISS, let alone moon. ISS, they could not do that. So reality was really horrible for them. So thankfully, Crew Dragon is like, okay, I got this, fam. I got this. Now NASA learned one thing from space shuttle is that one should never have only one vehicle. Multiple vehicle is a must. So their idea was that they're gonna have Orion with SLS, they're gonna have Starliner with basically other rocket system, which it should be able to plonk onto multiple rockets. Yes, dude. Both of them have already failed. Basically, Starliner is development hell at this point in time, because this puppy should have been launched with Crew at least 1 or 2 times by now. As in, like, I'm making this in January 2022, but has not happened. If you are really lucky, it may finally carry Crew at the end of 2022. It's way behind schedule and over budget also, and that does create an issue. It's like, can you actually trust them? Because be mindful, the last issue they had, they still have not solved it. It's like, why the heck you had that issue? It's like, yeah, the valve stuck open. Okay, why? Like, what went wrong? There is no investigation on that. It's like, we tried to figure it out, but we assume this happened. But it's like, why did it happen? Because you have launched this into space first time, and that time you realize, like, if software on this puppy is like garbage, it's like 80 software bugs. Like hardware, GG. Software, good luck. Like it literally came 2 times like the first launch time. If there were astronauts, there were 2 times they were at the risk of going, well, poof. So really bad development hell. Then you may be like, SLS should have been better, but still this is also stuck. Now it has multiple contractors. It has SLS, it has Boeing, it has Lockheed Martin. All of them are failing one issue or another issue. It's like, hey, some people say engine controller is not working, something solid boosters are taking much longer to stack. Be mindful, this is the same booster, only one segment more. That's the idea behind this. It's like, rather than having 4 segments, it's 5 segment system, but still costing more money and not working on time, and total integration so far has not happened. If everything goes according to plan, if everything is awesome, then this puppy should launch with astronaut 2023. So again, ludicrously behind schedule. And this is their current mess. They have no control over their supplier. Now, why I'm talking only about rockets? Well, here's the deal. The only difference between basically normal company versus space corporation is rockets. Like any Tom, Dick and Harry company can make a basically James Webb telescope. Not every company can launch it into space. That's the part, that rocket part, that makes you rocket scientist, that makes you into a space organization. Satellite manufacturing, any company that manufactures mobile phones, they can, like, I can do this. I can literally do this in, like, hundreds of times. Like, that's why SpaceX is building Starlink at such a high rate. Making satellite is easy. Making a rocket that carries that satellite to up, that's the hard part. And they are messing that part up horribly. So their current mess is very serious. They wanted to have 3 vehicles, which is a good idea. It's a really good idea. That shall never have space shuttle issue. But again, they are still stuck at this one thing, that if there is any design fault happens or any accident happen, which could happen, it's one of those things that always happens. It's just like you hope when nobody's inside when that happens. But again, if something bad happens, they will be again grounded, and Russia will be like, finally, now pay us some big money. So this is their current mess. Now that itself may not be that bad, but they are digging themselves even bigger mess in the future. Well, Artemis mission, people are realizing that doing the budgeting right now, and it's too expensive. Reality simply means it makes Apollo look cheap. So what does that simply mean? That simply means we are not in a Cold War anymore. We do not have that 4.5% of the national budgeting. So you have to design everything that survives at 0.5 or 0.35%. It cannot. Artemis is too goddamn expensive, because SLS is too behind schedule and too expensive, meaning, and at this point in time, they're starting to cancel SLS advanced development. That's why you are noticing NASA is shifting mission from SLS to Falcon Heavy. That's how bad it is. Like, they have realized, like, SLS is just not working out. And be mindful, their plan was like, oh, SLS is gonna definitely work and we're gonna develop even more advanced version of SLS. Dude, you're not able to get the first one off the ground with people on them, and you're planning for SLS Block 2. That's not gonna, it's too goddamn expensive. Meaning, when they pitched to the government, it was like, okay, it's gonna cost $1 billion. Now they're like, if you are lucky, we may be able to do $3 billion per launch. That's not acceptable. That's like that kind of money. Yeah, no. And you may be like, Starship? Well, Starship will happen, but it will not happen in 2025. Is it possible that SpaceX can build a Falcon, basically Starship? Maybe. Can they make a Starship that actually lands reliably, like same reliability as Falcon 9? Yeah, that's not happening. Not happening in 4 years. Can they human rate it in 4 years? No. Human rating is not that easy. And be very mindful. Basically, during the early developments of Starship, everybody was like super excited because they were going like bam, 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 hyperspeed. But now we are realizing there are like far more problems, especially with finance. And finance is one of those things that's like, it can kill even a big giant like Apollo. So finance is very important. At this point in time, SpaceX is, pouring all their money into one thing and one thing only, getting Starship working. Because if Starship is not there, they do not have Starlink. If they do not have Starlink, they do not have money. And because the consequence of that failure would be so huge, they may end up going bankrupt. Now again, they can still open the stock market and make boatload of money, but that comes with the consequence of losing control. So Elon Musk does not want to that. The ideal scenario is like, if it does go bankrupt, NASA does chip in, because again, NASA have to save SpaceX because that's the only service provider at this point in time that has a human rated vehicle. So they may have to save it. Or they may, like Elon Musk may sell boatload of his share in Tesla in order to gain back, like save SpaceX basically. So that's also not gonna happen by 2025. And they are damn sure they're like, we're gonna do this bad thing, really bad thing known as Lunar Gateway. Now Lunar Gateway has the same hallmark as Space Shuttle, meaning it's a bad design. From day one, it's a bad thing. Astronauts do not want to deal with this simply because what's the point of going into the orbit of moon? Like, there is not even a single point. You may be like, okay, you are learning how to live outside a Van belt. It's like, yeah, that's why nobody wants to be in this, because this will be twice as dangerous as compared to lunar surface. If you are on lunar surface, you are protected by 50% of the radiation, like flat out. You, like, let's say X variable you are getting in basically orbit, you will get half that X. Like, why the heck you want to cook your restaurant? And here's the deal, this will cost more than what ISS costed. Again, this is much further out, much heavier rockets have to be developed, which mind you so far have not been developed or launched. And it's gonna be empty most of the time, meaning at best case scenario, they're gonna have 1 month occupancy over the year. Let that sink in. They want to burn money of Russia, they want to burn money of European Union and their own, and they're like, we have built this amazing hotel which is empty 99% of the time. It's like, why? That is tangibly bad. That is so bad that Russia is like, yeah, no, they are going with China and they are directly going for the surface. Now you were like, their target line is 2030s, but again, if they actually land on the surface, they can, like, flat out, they will exceed whatever you can do. Like, they say such a dumb things. Is like, this can do allow us to do proper site management, meaning any assets they are launching on the ground, they can manage it and, like, serve as a communication hub. I'm like, we developed something for that. It's mind-bogglingly amazing technology we have developed for that. It's called satellites. Use that, because this simply means your rocket is burning twice as more fuel, simply because it has to slow down while it's coming towards the moon. It has to dock with this, then it has to basically accelerate again and decelerate again when you are trying to land on the surface. You are adding one extra delta V exchange. It is not cheap from a rocket propellant point of view, meaning your rocket is just wasting fuel for the sake of wasting fuel. It is really not sustainable. So flat out, from business point of view, the timeline point of view, every math checks out that they cannot sustain it unless another cold war happens with China, where they're like, USA gets like, no bro, we have to be the one that beats our own record. So until that happens, which I don't think it will happen, simply because there are other issues to deal with, and not to mention pandemic did cause severe economic backlash. So that may not happen. That simply means they will do Artemis 1 or 2 missions, and they're like, yeah, we wanted to stay on the moon, but bill was too high. So that is very serious bad. And because this mission is so expensive, behind schedule, now you're like, why the heck this is behind schedule? Again, SLS is not ready, and this is like, this also needs SLS block 2 for some parts of the module. How? So they are extending the support to ISS for 2030. Now ISS has served us well. ISS is the first time where I'm finding out that satellite can outlive the solar panels, because solar panels are like one of those things that last a very long time, but again, they also have like 25-year expectancy. It has reached its conclusion, meaning they had to replace the solar. This is the first time I'm finding that out. First time like I'm hearing any project where it outlives the solar panel, because generally solar panels are the thing that's like end of the life kind of scenario. This is the first time that's happening. So Is that a good thing? No, that simply means at NASA literally would be in a position where they had to sustain two space projects, meaning basically Lunar Gateway and ISS, and both of them are very expensive. Not expensive because ISS is expensive, like ISS will be taken care of, but problem is now breaking down, meaning the time astronauts are spending just to repair ISS is going up exponentially more, meaning how many launch like EVAs are there just to maintain the ISS? How many EVAs are for the experiments and versus how many are for, hey, can you replace the solar panels? It's too damn high. So at this point in time, ISS is not financially viable. And again, it's to be expected. It's like it's been serving us for 20, 30 years. So it's like it has reached its conclusion. That's why like NASA should have spent all the money into creating a replacement like Axiom Space and Orbital Reef. But rather than that, because again they really think too much about the stupid politics rather than like, and again it's not politicians' fault that this bad design got concluded, because politician did not know, hey, wouldn't it be nice to build a space station there? No, like it would be much better to build a basically expanding space station in low Earth orbit. Now, like, what's the point of that? Again, ISS taught us a lot of things, but reality is it's too goddamn small. It's not designed to do anything there. So if you can simply go to the government and it's like, hey, are we gonna build a second space station, but it's gonna be cheaper and it's gonna be bigger and better, everybody is gonna support it. Or you're gonna be like, hey, I'm gonna go to land to the moon and we actually we're gonna build habitats there, everybody's gonna support it. But you literally went there with like, we're gonna have an orbital there. It's like, why? We can do it for cheaply. This happened. Like, this is a real thing. Even the astronauts are like, dude, what the hell you're doing? Like, you're literally trolling us. Can you imagine some astronauts whose job would be like, yeah, just stay here. Yeah, don't go there, down there. Just look at 4K. So this is one of those things where it's like NASA is doing exact same thing that they did with basically space shuttle. And this is really bad because right now even European Union is taking it very seriously, where they're like, dude, we have to develop our own human mission systems. And if they start to focus on that very seriously, and Russia starts to look at China partnership and lunar landing seriously, you could literally have a scenario where this project first it will scale down as like only fewer modules, basically as much as NASA can support, but they will never cancel it, because that is one thing that NASA has not learned. Sometimes it's good to cancel something, but they're not canceling it, and it's gonna keep spiraling out of control. So not only they are currently in mess, they are digging up themselves in even bigger mess. So this is really sad to see. Basically, it's like, you really want to build this. It's like, we're gonna build it even if it's gonna bankrupt our Artemis project. Good luck. So this is one of the spicy videos that I wanted to make, but again, it needed to be made. Hopefully you have liked it, learned from it. In that case, please click the like button, share it amongst your friends. That will help me a lot. If you didn't like it, didn't enjoy it, I urge you to press dislike. Press it twice if you want. You can also leave a comment because I do try to reply to all of them. Subscribe, press the bell icon if you're free, and as always, thanks for watching.